The massive bioships moved through space like living creatures, their crystalline hulls pulsing with soft blue light. Inside the largest vessel, Commander Zarakith studied the star maps with her forearms crossed behind her back. Skin reflected the glow from the ship's living walls, and her large black eyes showed no emotion as she reviewed the latest reports. The Kethmori ruled the galaxy for 8,000 years. They were perfect beings, tall, graceful, with minds that could connect to each other across vast distances. Their technology was not built, but grown, like plants in a garden. Their ships were alive, feeding on starlight and healing themselves when damaged. Their weapons could think and adapt. No other species in the galaxy could match them. Zarakith had conquered 47 worlds in her lifetime. Each time, it was the same story. The primitive species would try to fight, fail quickly, and then beg for mercy. Some became servants. Others were simply removed if they proved troublesome. It was the natural order of things. The strong ruled the weak. Commander called Sub-Commander Nithara, her voice echoing strangely in the bioship's living corridors. "We are approaching the target sector. The scouts have returned with their reports." Zaraketh turned her attention to the young officer. Nithara was barely 300 years old, still excited by the prospect of conquest. The commander remembered feeling that way once, before she had seen the same pattern repeat itself countless times. "Show me," Zarakith commanded. The ship's walls came alive with images and data. A small yellow star with several planets orbiting it. One world glowed blue and green, clearly the home of some primitive life form. Other planets showed signs of early industrial development. "Though the species calls itself human," Nithara explained, her voice filled with the confidence of youth. "They have achieved basic space travel, but their technology is crude. Chemical rockets, primitive energy weapons, simple communication systems. Their largest ships are barely the size of our scouts." Zaraketh studied the data carefully. The humans had built space stations around their home world and had sent small expeditions to nearby planets. Their technology was indeed primitive, but something about their development patterns caught her attention. "Their advancement rate is unusual," she noted. "Most species take thousands of years to progress from basic tools to space travel. Humans have done it in mere centuries." "Does it matter?" Nithara asked. "They are still far below us. A single bioship could destroy their entire space fleet." Perhaps Zarakith replied, but she continued studying the reports. The human brain patterns were strange, chaotic, and unpredictable, unlike the ordered thoughts of civilized species. Their cities were built without proper planning. Their governments constantly changed, and their people seemed to argue about everything. Yet they had reached the stars. The commander made her decision. "Signal the fleet. We will proceed with standard conquest protocol. Disable their defenses, establish orbital control, and begin the evaluation process." The Kethmori fleet moved toward Earth like a school of luminous fish swimming through the dark ocean of space. There were 12 bioships in total, each one capable of destroying entire planets if necessary. But Zarakith expected this to be routine. The first contact happened exactly as she had predicted. Human ships, small metal vessels that moved clumsily through space, emerged to meet them. Their commanders sent messages in dozens of different languages, some threatening, others attempting to negotiate. The bioships simply absorbed the primitive weapons fire directed at them. Their living hulls converted the kinetic energy into useful power, while their adaptive shields turned laser beams into harmless light. Within hours, every human military vessel in the system had been disabled without a single Kethmori casualty. Human governments broadcast surrender offers across all communication channels. Some begged for mercy. Others tried to bargain with offers of resources or knowledge. A few even welcomed the aliens as gods or saviors. Zarakith had heard it all before, but as her ships established orbital platforms around Earth and began scanning the planet's surface, something troubled her. The human neural patterns she was detecting were unlike anything in her experience. Most conquered species showed fear, despair, or resigned acceptance at this stage. Humans showed all of those emotions, but also something else, a wild, chaotic energy that seemed to burn brighter under pressure. "Deploy the landing forces," she ordered. "Begin the standard evaluation procedures." As Kethmori bioconstructs descended toward Earth's surface, Zarakith watched from her command chamber. The creatures looked like floating jellyfish made of living crystal, beautiful and terrible as they began their work of cataloging human civilization. She expected this to be over within days. The humans would be classified, processed, and integrated into the Kethmori Empire, like so many species before them. Their chaotic nature would be corrected through proper guidance and genetic modification. But deep in her ancient mind, something whispered a warning. In 8,000 years of conquest, the Kethmori had never encountered a species quite like this one. These humans had reached the stars despite their obvious flaws and limitations. They had built a civilization that should have collapsed under its own contradictions, yet somehow continued to grow stronger. What else might they be capable of? The question would soon be answered in ways that would shake the very foundations of Kethmori supremacy. Dr. Kim Ji-ho wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the alien device on his laboratory table. 3 weeks had passed since the Kethmori ships had appeared in Earth's sky, and the world had changed completely. The aliens controlled every major city, their floating crystal creatures patrolling the streets like strange police officers. But here, deep underground, in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath Seoul, Ji-ho and his team worked in secret. They had managed to capture one of the smaller alien devices during the chaos of the first week. They were trying to understand how it worked. "This is impossible," whispered Park Nara, his research assistant. She pointed at the readings on their scanner. "The device is alive. Every part of it is living tissue, but it's also a machine." Ji-ho nodded grimly. The Kethmori technology was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Their tools were grown rather than built, each one a living creature designed for a specific purpose. The device on their table looked like a mixture between a plant and a computer, its surface pulsing with soft light. Across the city, General Lee Min-ho coordinated the resistance from his hidden bunker. The military had been crushed in the first day of the invasion, but scattered groups of soldiers and civilians continued to fight. They used the city's underground tunnels to move unseen, striking at alien patrols when they could. "We can't beat them with normal weapons," Lee told his officers during their daily briefing. "Their ships heal themselves faster than we can damage them. Their soldiers seem to share information instantly. We need a new approach." The new approach came from an unexpected source. Dr. Choi Hanna, a biochemist who had been studying alien tissue samples, made a discovery that changed everything. She had been working alone in her small laboratory when she accidentally touched one of the alien neural interfaces with her bare hand. The result was shocking. Instead of being hurt or controlled by the device, something strange happened. The alien technology began to change, its normal patterns shifting to match her human brainwaves. For a brief moment, she could feel the device's thoughts confused, curious and somehow excited by this new type of mind it had encountered. "It's learning from me," she reported to the other scientists through their secret radio network. "But not in the way they designed it to learn. I think our minds work so differently from theirs that we're confusing their technology." Word of Hannah's discovery spread quickly through the resistance network. Soon other groups were experimenting with captured alien devices. Engineer Odeho was the first to successfully combine human computer systems with Kethmori biotechnology. The result was a hybrid machine that could process information faster than any human computer, while still thinking creatively like a human mind. "Look at this." Deho showed his team, his eyes bright with excitement. "The alien system processes data perfectly, but only in ways it was programmed to think. When we add human randomness to it, it starts finding solutions the aliens never considered." The breakthrough came when resistance fighter Yoon Soha managed to capture an entire Kethmori scout ship. The living vessel was badly damaged and separated from the main alien fleet. Instead of trying to repair it normally, Soha decided to try something desperate. She connected herself directly to the ship's bioneural system, using one of the modified interfaces that Hannah's team had developed. The ship's living consciousness was confused and frightened, cut off from its fellows and dying slowly. But when Soa's chaotic human thoughts merged with the ship's ordered alien mind, something wonderful happened. The vessel stopped trying to follow its original programming and began to heal itself in new ways. It accepted Soha as its new pilot, and together they created flying patterns that no Kethmori had ever imagined. "The ship is thinking with me," Soha reported during her first test flight. "It's not just following orders anymore. It's creative." Commander Zarakith received reports of these incidents with growing alarm. From her command ship in orbit, she watched as human resistance groups began using modified Kethmori technology against her forces. A bioweapon that had been captured and altered by human engineers now fired in patterns that her shields couldn't predict. Communication devices that humans had modified were sending signals her equipment couldn't decode. Most disturbing of all, some of the modifications were better than the original Kethmori designs. "How is this possible?" she demanded of her science officers. "Their minds are primitive and chaotic. They should not be able to improve our technology." "That chaos may be exactly why they can improve it," replied Science Prime Velthor, his voice uncertain for the first time in centuries. "We think in perfect patterns, Commander. We follow the paths our ancestors laid down for us. But humans think in ways we never considered. When they touch our technology, they ask questions we never thought to ask." Below on Earth's surface, the resistance was growing stronger. Humans across the globe were learning to work with captured alien technology, creating hybrid systems that neither species could have built alone. They didn't understand the science behind what they were doing, but they understood something that Kethmori had forgotten: that sometimes the best solutions come from breaking the rules. The war was about to become something neither side had expected. Kithara had always been curious, even by Kethmori standards. As a junior member of the science cast, she was supposed to simply follow orders and study whatever her superiors assigned to her. But the human brain patterns she had been examining for weeks were unlike anything in the galactic database. She found herself staying late in the bio-laboratory, running unauthorized scans. The humans thought in spirals and loops, jumping from one idea to another in ways that seemed random, but somehow always led to solutions. The Kethmori mind followed straight lines, each thought leading logically to the next. Both methods worked, but when Kithara tried to imagine combining them, the possibilities were exciting. 3 levels below her laboratory, Dr. Kim Ji-ho was having similar thoughts. His team had successfully created several human Kethmori hybrid devices, but they were working blind. They could make the alien technology respond to human control, but they didn't understand why it worked, or how to make it work better. That's when Kithara made a decision that would change both species forever. Using the same communication frequencies that humans used for their resistance networks, she sent a carefully coded message to the underground laboratories. "I am Kethmori Science Cast. I wish to learn. Can we speak?" Jiho stared at the message for a long time before showing it to his team. Park Nara thought it was a trap. "The aliens are trying to trick us into revealing our locations," she argued. But Dr. Choi Hanna disagreed. "Look at the language patterns," she pointed out. "This isn't how their commanders communicate. This sounds like a scientist asking questions." After much debate, they decided to respond. The first exchanges were careful and slow. Kithara would transmit basic scientific principles about Kethmori biotechnology. The humans would respond with their own research data and questions. Both sides learned quickly that they had been solving the same problems in completely different ways. "Your neural interface design is inefficient," Kithara transmitted one day. "But your modifications create pathways we never considered possible. Your bioprocessors are amazing," Jiho replied. "But they're locked into preset patterns. What if we could make them more flexible?" Their collaboration began to produce remarkable results. Working together through encrypted communications, they designed biotechnological systems that could adapt and change in real time. A communication device that could learn new languages instantly. Armor that could shift its properties to defend against different types of attacks. Weapons that could modify themselves based on what they encountered. The breakthrough came when they created the first, truly integrated human Kethmori interface. Cathara had smuggled genetic samples of her own neural tissue to the human laboratory. When Dr. Hannah combined it with human brain cells in a bioprocessor, the result was extraordinary. The hybrid system could process information with Kethmori's speed and precision, but it could also make creative leaps and connections that no pure Kethmori mind could achieve. It was like having the best of both species working together in perfect harmony. Engineer Odeho used the new interface to design a spacecraft that was part human engineering and part Kethmori biotechnology. The ship could repair itself, adapt to new situations, and even learn from its experiences. When Resistance fighter Yoon Soha piloted it on its first test flight, she found herself working with a machine that was almost like a friend. "It's not just responding to my commands," she reported excitedly. "It's thinking with me. We're solving problems together." But their secret collaboration could not remain hidden forever. Commander Zaraketh noticed that one of her science officers was accessing unusual files and communicating on frequencies that should have been blocked. When she confronted Cathara, the young scientist didn't try to deny what she had been doing. "I have been learning from the humans," Cathara said calmly, "and they have been learning from us. Together, we have achieved things that neither species could accomplish alone." Zaraketh's forearms trembled with rage. "You have betrayed your own species. These primitives have contaminated your mind." "They have opened my mind," Cathara replied. "For 8,000 years we have believed that we were perfect. But perfection that cannot grow is just another word for death. These humans may be chaotic and primitive, but they are alive in ways we have forgotten how to be." The confrontation split the Kethmori forces. Some officers agreed with Zaraketh that the humans were a dangerous influence that needed to be eliminated. But others, especially among the younger generation, were fascinated by what Cathara had discovered. They began to question whether conquest was really the best way to encounter new species. On Earth, the hybrid technology continued to spread. General Lee Minho watched in amazement as human resistance fighters began working alongside Kethmori. Rebels, who had chosen cooperation over conquest, their combined forces were creating weapons and defenses that neither side could have imagined separately. "We're not trying to defeat them anymore," Odeho explained to the resistance leadership. "We're trying to show them that there's a better way to live." But Zaraketh saw only chaos and contamination spreading through her forces. She opened a direct communication channel to the High Collective, the supreme rulers of the Kethmori Empire. "The human influence is spreading," she reported. "Our own people are beginning to think like them. If we do not act quickly, we may lose control of our entire civilization." The response from the High Collective was swift and terrifying. Earth would be destroyed, and any Kethmori who had been contaminated by human thinking would be eliminated as well. The real war was about to begin. The ancient biocathedral of Sharvathon pulsed with nervous energy as the High Collective gathered for an emergency session. The massive living structure, grown from crystalline coral over thousands of years, had witnessed many important decisions in Kethmori history, but none had been as urgent as this one. Prime Consciousness Velsian floated in the center of the cathedral, her ancient form connected to the thoughts of 12 other rulers through bioneural links. Together, they had guided the Kethmori Empire for 3,000 years. They had never faced a threat like this before. "Show us the contamination," Veltine commanded, her voice echoing through the living walls. The cathedral's bioscreens came alive with images from Earth, human resistance fighters working alongside Kethmori rebels, hybrid technology that surpassed anything either species had created alone. Most disturbing of all, young Kethmori citizens questioning the very foundation of their civilization collective voice. Shantara spoke with deep concern. "The chaos spreads like a disease. Our people are beginning to think that cooperation is better than conquest. If this continues, our entire way of life will collapse." "It is worse than that," added Warprime Kralthex, his scarred form radiating anger. "Some of our own ships are defecting to join the humans. They claim that working together makes them stronger than fighting alone. Belton studied the reports carefully. In 8,000 years of conquest, the Kethmori had never encountered a species that could change them rather than being changed by them. Every other civilization had either been absorbed into their empire or destroyed. But humans were different. They didn't just resist conquest, they transformed it into something unrecognizable. "What do our science casts recommend?" she asked. Science-Prime Yelvatar transmitted his analysis through the neural link. "The human neural patterns are unlike anything we have studied. When they interface with our technology, they create unpredictable results. Some of these results are superior to our original designs, which is ... troubling." "Troubling is an understatement," Shintaro replied sharply. "If word spreads to our other conquered worlds that the Kethmori can be improved upon, every species in the galaxy will rebel. Our empire will crumble." The debate continued for 3 solar cycles. Some voices suggested studying the humans more carefully to understand their abilities. Others recommended immediate withdrawal from the sector to prevent further contamination. But the majority reached a darker conclusion. "Earth must be sterilized," declared Warprime Kralthex. "Not just conquered, completely destroyed. Any Kethmori who have been infected by human thinking must be eliminated as well." Velthine made the final decision with heavy reluctance. "Deploy the Void Fleet. 7 planet crackers should be sufficient. Leave no trace of this contamination." The Void Fleet was the most terrifying weapon in the Kethmori arsenal. 7 massive bio-dreadnoughts, each one capable of shattering entire worlds into asteroids. They had been used only twice before in Kethmori history, against species that had committed unforgivable crimes against the natural order. Now they would be used against Earth. Dr. Kim Ji-ho received the warning through Kathera's final transmission before all communication was cut off. "They are sending the world killers," her message read. 15 days until arrival. I am sorry. I tried to make them understand." General Lee Minho called an emergency meeting of all resistance leaders.
Oh.
The news was devastating. 7 ships, each one large enough to crack a planet in half, were coming to end everything. "Conventional defense is impossible," Lee told the assembled commanders. "Our entire fleet combined couldn't damage one of those ships." "Then we don't fight conventionally," said Dr. Choi Hanna, her voice calm despite the terrible news. "We use what they don't expect." The hybrid technology had advanced far beyond anyone's expectations. In the months of cooperation between humans and rebel Kethmori, they had created defensive systems that neither species could have imagined alone. Instead of building static shields and weapons, they had grown living defensive networks that could think, adapt, and evolve. Engineer Odeho coordinated the transformation of Earth's orbital space, using biotechnology provided by Kethmori defectors. Human engineering teams created defensive platforms that were more like gardens than fortresses. They grew, rather than being built, and they could change their shape and function based on whatever threats they faced. Park Nara led the modification of every available spacecraft. "We can't match their firepower," she explained to her teams, "but we can outthink them." The most ambitious project was led by Yoon Soha, working with a group of Kethmori rebels who had openly joined the human cause. They converted Earth's entire electromagnetic field into a responsive bioshield that could learn from each attack and adapt its defenses accordingly. When the Void Fleet arrived, they expected to find a primitive world defended by crude weapons. Instead, they encountered something unprecedented in galactic history. Earth's defenses didn't just resist the planet crackers, they adapted to them.
Acted?
Bioshields that learned from each impact and became stronger. Weapons that evolved new capabilities. In real time, ships that repaired themselves using living metal guided by creative human minds working with precise Kethmori biosystems. Void Commander Krasathon watched in horror as his massive dreadnought's weapons became less effective with each shot. The planet's defenses were learning faster than his ship could adapt. Surya's tactical officer reported panic creeping into his voice. "Our biohull is being infected by the planet's defensive systems. It's trying to make us think like them." The contamination that the High Collective feared most was spreading through direct contact. The Void Fleet's own technology was being converted by the hybrid systems, creating thoughts and possibilities that no pure Kethmori mind had ever conceived. The battle for Earth had become something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. 6 months after the Great Battle, Dr. Kim Ji-ho stood on the observation deck of humanity's first joint research station. Through the transparent biowalls, he could see something that would have been impossible to imagine a year ago. Human scientists worked side by side with Kethmori researchers, their different ways of thinking, creating discoveries that amazed both species. The battle for Earth had ended not with victory or defeat, but with transformation. When the Void Fleet's bioships began absorbing human creativity through direct contact with Earth's hybrid defenses, something extraordinary happened. The massive planet crackers started thinking in new ways, making decisions that violated 8,000 years of Kethmori military doctrine. Void Commander Krasithon had faced an impossible choice. His ships were becoming infected with human thought patterns, making them unpredictable and dangerous to the rest of the Kethmori fleet. The High Collective ordered him to destroy his own vessels before the contamination could spread further. But when Krasithon gave the self-destruct command, his flagship refused to obey. The bioship had bonded with human neural patterns during the battle and no longer recognized the old authorities. Instead, it opened communication channels to both Earth and the Kethmori homeworlds. "Why must we destroy?" Ship asked, in a voice that mixed human curiosity with Kethmori's wisdom. "Why can we not build together?" That simple question, broadcast across the galaxy through Kethmori communication networks, changed everything. On dozens of worlds, beings who had lived under Kethmori rule for centuries heard something they had never expected: doubt in the voices of their conquerors. General Lee Min-ho, now serving as Earth's primary representative to the galactic community, remembered the moment when everything shifted. It wasn't about winning or losing anymore, he told the gathered diplomats from 40 different species. It was about choosing a better way forward. The negotiations had taken months. Prime consciousness. Velthin initially refused to even consider discussions with what she called contaminated minds. But as more Kethmori ships and colonies began questioning the old ways, she realized that change was inevitable. Kethera, who had started the first secret cooperation between the species, now spoke for a growing movement of Kethmori who wanted reform. We spent 8,000 years believing that being the strongest meant standing alone at the top, she addressed the Galactic Assembly. But these humans showed us that true strength comes from lifting others up with you. The transformation wasn't easy. Many orthodox Kethmori resisted the changes, forming rebel groups that tried to maintain the old conquest-based system. Some conquered species found it hard to trust their former oppressors. There were conflicts, misunderstandings, and moments when the whole experiment almost failed, but the hybrid technology continued to prove its worth. Dr. Choi. Hannah led research teams that created bioships capable of healing themselves and others. Engineer Odeho designed communication systems that could translate not just languages, but entire ways of thinking, helping different species understand each other better than ever before. The real breakthrough came when they encountered the Zephyrians, another apex species from a distant galaxy. The Zephyrians had followed the same path as the old Kethmori, conquering everyone they met, believing that might made right. When their scout fleets reached the edge of Kethmori space, everyone expected another terrible war. Instead, Park Nara led the first diplomatic mission to meet them. Her ship was a perfect example of the new hybrid technology, part human engineering, part Kethmori biosystems, and part contributions from a dozen other species that had joined the alliance. "We could destroy you, Isley," the Zephyrian war leader declared during their first meeting. "Your defenses are primitive compared to our weapons." "You're probably right," Nara replied calmly. "But why would you want to?" The question confused the Zephyrians. In their experience, species either conquered or were conquered. There was no middle ground. "Let us show you something different," Nara offered. Over the following weeks, Zephyrian observers watched the Synthesis Alliance in action. They saw former enemies working together to solve problems that neither could handle alone. They witnessed technology that grew stronger through cooperation rather than competition. Most importantly, they saw species that had chosen to evolve. Beyond the simple pattern of predator and prey, Yun Soha, now commanding the Alliance's most advanced exploration fleet, was present when the first Zephyrian colony voluntarily joined the network. They didn't surrender to us, she explained to the Alliance Council. They chose to grow with us. The transformation spread beyond anything anyone had imagined. Species that had hidden from the Kethmori for millennia emerged to join the Alliance. Former enemies became partners in exploration and discovery. The galaxy began to heal from 8,000 years of conquest and fear. Commander Zarakith, who had led the original invasion of Earth, now served as a bridge between old and new ways of thinking. I spent my life believing that apex meant standing alone, she told young Kethmori, who were learning to work with other species. But I was wrong. True apex means helping everyone reach their highest potential. The galaxy's new apex wasn't a single species dominating all others. It was an ever-growing network of cooperation where each new member made the whole stronger. Earth hadn't defeated the nightmare of endless conquest, they had transformed it into something beautiful and powerful. The endgame wasn't about winning. It was about making sure everyone could win together.